Could you make a torpedo?
A torpedo? Ask me to make a dreadnought and do it upright. A torpedo, miss. You don't really know what you're asking. You see, there ain't nothing so complicated as the insides of a torpedo. It's got gyroscopes, compressed air chambers, compensating cylinders.
But all those things, those gyroscopes and things, they're only to make it go, aren't they?
Yeah, go and hit what it's aimed at.
Well, we've got the African Queen.
I'm Matthew Charles Hall, filmmaker, film lover, and film collector, and you're watching the Film History Network. Few adventure films have ever felt as sweaty, sunburned, or downright alive as John Huston's The African Queen. It's a movie where you can practically feel the mosquitoes buzzing around you, or the steam rising off of the river. You watch it and think, everyone in this scene really needs a shower. That's grit and detail on an entirely new level for a movie made in 1951. It's one of the great romantic adventures. But behind the camera, well, this production was chaos on a biblical level. Let's head downriver for John Huston's masterpiece, The African Queen.
We made it! We made it!
Hip, hip, hooray!
Oh, we sure put one over on them that time, didn't we, Miss?
What a curious feeling to have people shooting at you.
surprised to see the African Queen that didn't start shooting till we were past.
One knows it's dangerous in there, but it's afraid
They
of
didn't
all.
believe we tried to get down the gorge.
I suppose it's because the bullets sound like mosquitoes.
They didn't believe anybody could.
I felt like slapping at them.
Well, we showed them. Hip, hip, hooray!
By 1951, Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn were Hollywood royalty. But they had earned that reputation in very different ways. Bogart was the king of smoky noir cynicism, Casablanca, The Maltese Falcon, In a Lonely Place. Hepburn was the aristocratic firebrand, all sharp intelligence and New England backbone. Putting those two in the sweaty jungles of the Congo aboard a rusted-out riverboat seemed like the oddest kind of chemistry experiment. And that's exactly why this movie works. Director John Huston, of course, loved chaos. He thrived on it, having been a war correspondent and a documentary filmmaker during World War II, sort of a Hemingway-like icon. And this was his first opportunity to make a film almost entirely on location in Africa, not on a Hollywood backlot overseen by studio suits that lacked the creative spark. But once they arrived in Africa, the cast and crew realized pretty quickly that this wasn't pretend danger. This was real. The water was unfiltered, the heat was brutal, the insects were relentless, and they carried diseases. The illnesses on set were widespread and ugly. Crew members were vomiting, fainting, dehydrated, suffering dysentery, sometimes all in the same day. Hepburn later wrote about one particularly awful moment. She sprinted toward the outhouse in desperation, only to find a black mamba inside. That's the kind of shoot this was. Ironically, Humphrey Bogart and director Huston made it through the entire shoot with full health. The reason? Well, let's just say this is the perfect time for a cocktail intermission. If you've watched our stuff, you know that every Film History Network episode has a cocktail break. And few films hand us a better setup than The African Queen. So here's a fun fact. Yes, everyone on set got sick, except Humphrey Bogart and John Huston. Why? They said they avoided the water entirely and drank only imported Scotch whiskey. Bogart later joked, "All I ate was baked beans, canned asparagus, and Scotch whiskey. Whenever a fly bit Huston or me, it dropped dead." So tonight's drink is simple, rugged, and a tribute to Bogey's survival strategy. This is the African Queen, a refreshing Scotch-based soda cocktail with elderflower liqueur. Built simply over ice with a dash of bitters or citrus if you want to class it up. But honestly, Bogart would have told you to stop being fancy and drink it straight, kid. To Bogey, Huston, and fortified livers everywhere.
Twicky little zone. Twicky little Z.
Here's another great piece of history. Actress Lauren Bacall came along for the entire African shoot. Not as an actress, but as Bogart's wife and companion. She cooked for the crew, tended to the camp, and did everything she could to keep spirits up. This trip was also the moment she began her lifelong friendship with Katharine Hepburn. You had Bogey and Huston boozing, Bacall mother henning everyone, Hepburn stubbornly insisting on drinking only water to prove a point to her director, and paying for it with a vicious case of dysentery. It's honestly a miracle this film ever got finished. These legendary actors look convincingly miserable on screen. It's clear they didn't have to act for that. This was Bogart's and Hepburn's first color film, and they were in the best possible hands. Jack Cardiff wasn't just a cinematographer, he was a Technicolor magician, a painter with a camera, a man whose devotion to light and color bordered on the spiritual. Just watch his film, Black Narcissus, for that. Oscar winner Cardiff managed to make the chaotic location shoot, with all its chaos and malaria, look lush, warm, and organically alive. The river practically becomes a character. Cardiff knew how to make nature glow, even when everyone around him was sweating through the experience. It makes for visceral viewing, and it's one of the reasons this film still looks incredible today on disc. And yes, link in the comments for our preferred version that we screened here at Ford's for movie night. Another fun bit of trivia, this film was a personal favorite of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, as well as Walt Disney. In fact, this was the movie that inspired the Jungle Cruise ride at Disneyland. Disney loved the sense of danger, the blending of humor and river adventure, and that feeling that the boat might fall apart at any second. So, the next time you find yourself on the backside of water, know you're riding a little piece of Bogart and Hepburn's chaos. Despite the hellish production, The African Queen became one of the high points of both stars' careers. Bogart would win his only Academy Award for this performance. Hepburn considered her involvement one of the roles she was proudest of. And Huston proved, again, that he could will a movie into existence through sheer force of personality. It remains one of cinema's great opposites attract romances, a survival story filled with grit and charm, and a reminder that filmmaking isn't always as gorgeous and glamorous as it often seems. In fact, at times, it's downright dangerous. This was The African Queen, a production so chaotic it practically rewrote the definition of location shoot, but a masterpiece nonetheless. I'm Matthew Charles Hall. Thanks for watching the Film History Network, where the past is always rolling. We'll see you next time.